Well, tomorrow, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin will be in Israel, following on the heels of the United States chief diplomat, whose visit highlights America's strong support for the Jewish state. It's something Secretary Antony Blinken underscored today in a joint press conference with Prime Minister Netanyahu.
And now, with at least 27 Americans confirmed dead, the Pentagon is shifting more U.S. military resources to the Middle East. National security correspondent Caitlin Burke is following the story. Caitlin?
Jenna, the U.S. is backing up its words of support for Israel with action. The first shipment of American munitions has arrived, along with several warships. And according to the Biden administration, more help is coming.
The message that I bring to Israel is this: you may be strong enough on your own to defend yourself, but as long as America exists, you will never, ever have to. We will always be there by your side.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken repeating the warning issued by President Biden. The U.S. has Israel's back, so if you're thinking of taking advantage of their current crisis, don't. Blinken, who has family members that survived the Holocaust, taking time Thursday to meet with survivors of the Hamas attack.
We were saved by miracle, but there are friends that we love that weren't. Thank you very much.
We're thinking of them and trying to do everything we can. So
I know.
We want to bring them home.
Thank you.
In terms of a military response, as of Wednesday, the USS Gerald R. Ford Carrier Strike Group is already in the region, and the Air Force has increased the number of fighter planes.
Our support for Israel is rock solid. We're working urgently to get Israel what it needs to defend itself, including munitions and Iron Dome interceptors.
Both Blinken and Defense Secretary Austin reaffirming that as Israel's needs evolve, the Biden administration will work with Congress to make sure they're met. Nathan Sales, former ambassador at large and coordinator for counterterrorism, says the U.S. cannot afford to allow Israel to lose this war.
If Israel loses, we're next. For Iran, Israel is the little Satan and the United States is the great Satan. And we have every interest in helping our ally in the Middle East, our great ally Israel, on the front lines of this conflict. We are linked in our interests, we are linked in our values, and we share common enemies. We need to do what we can to help them win.
There's bipartisan support in Congress for Israel's right to defend itself. The House Foreign Affairs Committee proposing a resolution with over 400 co-sponsors from both sides of the aisle, expressing unity behind Israel and condemnation of Hamas. Still, the passage of bills like this and others depend on a speedy election of a House Speaker. John, Jenna?
So, Caitlin, you just mentioned the broad bipartisan support in Congress and the White House response. What about the 2024 candidates on the campaign trail? How are they addressing the situation in the Middle East?
John, in comments at a gathering of supporters Wednesday, former President Donald Trump, the leading Republican contender, said under his future administration, the U.S. will stand with Israel. But then he also made comments critical of Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, bringing up a story from 2020.
You know, I did have a bad experience with Israel, though. When we took out Soleimani, it was us and Israel working as a group. And the night before it happened, I got a call that Israel will not be participating in this attack. I'll never forget that Bibi Netanyahu let us down.
The White House called Trump's comments dangerous and unhinged. White House Deputy Press Secretary Andrew Bates saying this is a time for all of us to stand shoulder to shoulder with Israel against unadulterated evil. John?
All right, CBN National Security Correspondent Caitlin Burke. Thank you so much, Caitlin. Well, here with us now is Eli Kohanim, former Deputy U.S. Envoy to combat anti-Semitism and a CBN News contributor. Eli, welcome to you. So we learned today that the U.S. and Qatar have agreed to block Iran from accessing that $6 billion in funds while authorities look into the links between Hamas and Iran as it relates to the attack in Israel. Your reaction to this, and also maybe for those who may not understand, can you give context into how Qatar is involved in this?
Sure. What's happening right now is that the U.S. is part of the hostage deal that they brokered almost a month ago now. We had the release of American hostages from Iranian authorities, and we were also supposed to release $6 billion of sanctioned oil revenues of the Iranians, and so that $6 billion of the formerly sanctioned funds is sitting in Qatar. And so today, the United States, the Biden administration, and the Qataris have worked out a quiet deal that Qatar will not be releasing that $6 billion to the Islamic Republic for now, as far as we know. And so, look, this is good news that the Iranians are not going to get this $6 billion at the moment. But I have to note that under the Biden administration, the Islamic Republic is $80 billion richer. They have been making oil sales to the Chinese that the Biden administration has not been enforcing U.S. sanctions since the Biden administration came into office. And so, I'm happy for this news. But I have to stress that the Iranian economy has really been growing and strengthened under the Biden administration. And it's given the regime that much more funds and money in order to be able to support their terror proxies, Hamas being chief among them.
Yeah, Ellie, at the same time, the White House, the Department of Defense, and the State Department have really all had the same message to anyone who's thinking of taking advantage of the situation. They say don't. How do you expect Iran will react as this war unfolds, Ellie?
It's hard to predict exactly how the Islamic Republic of Iran is going to react, but what Iran's strategy to date has been is to use its terror proxies to encircle and attack Israel, and therefore to try to keep the Iranian homeland safe from reprisal. So right now we're seeing the heinous, vicious terrorist attacks and atrocities that Hamas committed against Israel over the weekend. We know that Hezbollah in the north in Lebanon is sitting there with 150,000 rockets ready to rain down on Israel. And we know that Iran has boots on the ground in Syria. So Iran has all these terror proxies, again, encircling Israel. And so it might make sense for them to try to have their other proxies start getting into this war without wanting to get their own, forces directly involved.
Ellie, just a few seconds left. You were part of the historic Abraham Accords under the Trump administration. How do you see the Accords playing into what's happening now in just a few seconds?
We see the United Arab Emirates has very strongly condemned Hamas, and we know that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia was in talks with Israel to make their own peace with Israel, and that would have been an extension of the Abraham Accords. Sadly, everything is on hold right now with this brutal war that was waged on Israel.
All right.
All right.
Ellie Kohanim, thank you so much. We're going to have to leave it there. Thanks, Ellie.
Thank you, Ellie.
Thank you. Thanks for